Welcome back. This time we're talking about Dunkirk, the latest film from director Christopher Nolan, who's one of the best filmmakers working today as far as I'm concerned. In addition to his Dark Knight trilogy, he gave us The Prestige, Insomnia, Memento, and Interstellar. And now he takes on the war genre with Dunkirk, telling the story of the Battle of Dunkirk from World War II. Now, this is a battle that I was vaguely familiar with, but really didn't know a whole lot about until I heard that he was making a movie about it. Essentially, it's early in the war when the Allies are on their heels with Germany marching through Europe. And basically, this results in about 400,000 Allied troops, mainly British, but some French and Dutch and other troops as well, pretty much being trapped between the encroaching Nazi forces and the ocean. They're but like 26 miles away from the British Isles, but there's no way to get there. Between U-boats and planes and other Nazi forces, the British really can't get them off this beach. And essentially they're going to either be slaughtered or captured, and I don't know what would happen if a force captured 400,000 prisoners. So their future looks pretty bleak. And the film is essentially told in like 3 different parts, showing the battle from land, sea, and air. Now, real quick, something I want to mention because it kind of threw me off for the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is each segment of this film begins with some words on the screen, and for the land story, it's referred to as mole. And I honestly thought that some of the characters we're following might be German moles. It actually turns out that this beach, or at least the port that they're trying to get the ships in and out of, is called Mole. So don't be confused by that going into the movie, because I was, and I just want to go ahead and mention that up front. There's some other words that are included in these things that I didn't completely understand at first, but later it all made sense, and I went, oh. So keep that in mind as well. Now, like with pretty much every Christopher Nolan fan, he has gathered an excellent cast. That includes Tom Hardy, Mark Rylance, Cillian Murphy, Kenneth Branagh, and Harry Styles. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I knew which one he was. And that's actually one of the few issues I had with this movie is in the land segment of the story. There's a group of about 5 or 6 British soldiers that we follow through the course of the film. And I'm pretty sure I can say this. I couldn't tell them apart for the most part. I don't know if we ever actually learn any of their names. They are just soldiers. And so it was a very interesting way to tell a story. I mean, usually war films, we're given a handful of characters. We learn about their backstories. We learn about their girlfriends and their wives and their mothers and fathers and why what they're trying to do and why they joined and everything else. This is basically, we're thrown in with a growing group of soldiers, and we really never learn anything about them. That might be a turnoff for some. I thought it was an interesting way to go, and honestly, there's a point in the film for the first maybe half of the movie, I really wasn't sure if this was really going to live up to the Nolan standard. Visually, it's amazing. He is a master with the IMAX camera. I went to go see this in IMAX because Christopher Nolan is one of those few directors that will get me to pay the extra money to go watch a film in IMAX, because it's just stunning. Especially the aerial battles were just amazing. So it has that Christopher Nolan cinematography style, the camera work. I mean, it is just a beautifully shot film. Story-wise, I wasn't 100% on it until there's a moment where it all kind of comes together, and I think people will realize what that storytelling technique is. It's not like a twist or anything. I probably should have realized it earlier, but I just didn't. So I don't know exactly if everyone will realize it at the same moment, but when I did, I went, oh, this is what's happening. And in a way, it really elevated everything that had come before, because now those sort of non-standard storytelling techniques that I wasn't really sure if I could get behind all made complete sense. And then you realize that there is a greater story being told here, and it really, really works. Now, I've talked a lot about the land segment. The water segment is essentially the story of how the British basically mustered up the civilian corps of small boat pilots to travel the channel and rescue their soldiers. We basically follow this one small ship, which is run by Mark Rylance's character. And that segment, more so than the other two, is where we really get to know those characters a bit more. And honestly, the only characters I really remember by name are from from this boat. And then we have the air segment, which includes Tom Hardy as a British pilot. And as I said earlier, the aerial battles are amazing. I'll go ahead and mention it now. This is a very loud movie. I don't know if it was just because it was IMAX, but this was an incredibly loud movie. And I've seen films that documented World War II aerial battles, but this was one of the few films where, like, with these small one pilot dogfight pilots, you get a sense of how loud these planes were, and how just it wasn't necessarily smooth. I mean, this is pretty early on in the era of airplanes, so they're kind of shaking a little bit, and especially with the IMAX audio, I mean, you felt it, and it really kind of enhanced the experience. So really, I'm not sure if I've heard some people saying that this is his best film. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far yet. But it really, considering there was a portion of the film where I really wasn't sure this was going to live up to his standard, I have to say this is a very, very good Christopher Nolan film, and a very good war film, and telling a story of a segment of World War II that I don't think a lot of people know about, because at least here in the United States, because it really doesn't have anything to do with America. This is the British Navy and Air Force and Army coming together, and its people coming together to rescue their soldiers. This is not about winning a battle. This is about surviving so we can win the next one. And they kind of they reach into some of that as well. How survival is victory sometimes. So this was a very good film. It's definitely one of the best I've seen this summer. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about it come awards time, considering just how good it is, as well as, the Christopher Nolan brand has become pretty award worthy over his last few efforts. So this is not going to be the last we hear of this film. We're going to hear about a lot about it during at the end of the year, and I don't think it's undeserved. It really does come together and deliver an incredibly good movie. Again, as far as complaints go, on the land side, we really don't get to learn a whole lot about these characters. They're kind of interchangeable, and honestly, I had trouble keeping track of them, who was who. So I really don't know, for the most part, who lived and who died, because that's really about my only complaint. Everything else really works as I think Christopher Nolan intended it. So if you've seen this movie, what did you think about it? And what was your favorite segment of the three? Was it the land, sea, or air? I think for me, visually the air segments were the best, but as far as storytelling goes, I'd have to go with the sea segments. But I am curious, so let me know what your favorite was. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.